Clara's knees hit the frozen ground. The wedding dress tore as she crawled through the snow, blood trailing from her split lip. Behind her, the church bells still rang, mocking her. They'd left her there, on the steps, like garbage. She couldn't feel her fingers anymore, couldn't feel anything except the shame burning through her chest. A light flickered ahead, a barn. She dragged herself toward it, pushed open the door, and collapsed into the hay. 5 small faces stared down at her. The smallest one whispered, "Papa, there's a lady dying in our barn." Subscribe now and follow Clara's story to the very end. Comment your city below. I want to see how far this story travels. The barn door flew open. Nathaniel Callahan spun around his hand, already reaching for the rifle propped against the wall. 5 children scattered behind him, Lily pressing the twins against her skirt. Samuel clutching baby Rose. A woman stood in the doorway. White dress, torn veil, blood on her face. She took 1 step forward and crumpled into the hay. Sweet Jesus. Nate crossed the distance in 3 strides, dropping to his knees beside her. Ma'am, can you hear me?" Her eyes fluttered. Brown eyes dark as creek water, filled with something he recognized. Shame. Pure, undiluted shame. "They left me," she whispered through split lips. "At the church. Nobody came." Lily appeared at his elbow. 9 years old and already running this household better than he ever could. "Papa, she's freezing. We gotta get her inside." "I know, Lily. I know." He slid his arms beneath the woman. She weighed almost nothing, bones and fabric and desperation. When was the last time she'd eaten? The wedding dress was soaked through ice crystals forming in the lace. "Samuel, hold the door. Lily, take Rose. Twins, stay close." They moved as a unit across the yard. Snow swirled around them, the December wind cutting through everything. Nate kicked open the front door and carried her to the fireplace, laying her on the worn rug his wife had braided 6 winters ago. 6 winters. 4 years since Sarah died. 4 years of raising 5 children alone on this godforsaken ranch. "Lily, get blankets. Samuel, stoke that fire. Emma, Ethan, you 2 keep Rose quiet." The children scattered. They knew how to survive. They'd learned early. Nate knelt beside the woman, studying her face. Young. Maybe 25, 26. Dark hair matted with snow and mud. A bruise forming on her cheekbone lip, split and swelling. Someone had hit her. His jaw tightened. "Ma'am?" He touched her shoulder. "Ma'am, I need you to stay awake." "What's your name?" Her eyes opened slowly. "Clara. Clara Hartwell." "All right, Clara. I'm Nate Callahan. You're safe now. You hear me? You're safe." She laughed, a broken, hollow sound. "Safe. Ain't been safe since I got on that train in Ohio." Lily returned with an armload of quilts. "Papa, her lips are blue." "I see it." He wrapped the blankets around Clara, his hands steady, even though something inside him was shaking. He hadn't touched a woman in 4 years. Hadn't allowed himself to get this close to anyone. The walls he'd built around his heart were thick for a reason. "The dress," Lily said quietly. "It's soaked through. She'll catch her death." Nate's face reddened. "Lily." "I'll do it, Papa. Take the boys to the kitchen." 9 years old and already more practical than most grown women. Nate gathered Samuel and the twins, herding them toward the kitchen, while Lily helped Clara out of the ruined wedding gown. He could hear them through the thin walls, Clara's weak protests, Lily's gentle insistence. "It's just a dress, ma'am. Ain't worth dying over." "It was supposed to be..." Clara's voice broke. "It was supposed to be the most important dress of my life." "Well, it ain't anymore. Here, put this on. It was my mama's." Silence. Then so quiet, Nate almost missed it. "Thank you." When Lily called them back, Clara was wrapped in Sarah's old wool dress, her dark hair loose around her shoulders. She looked small, fragile. Nothing like the wild-eyed apparition who'd stumbled through his barn door. Samuel tugged Nate's sleeve. "Papa, is she gonna die like Mama?" The question hit him like a fist to the chest. "No, son, she ain't gonna die." "Promise." Nate looked at Clara. Her eyes met his, brown and broken, and somehow still fighting. "Yeah," he said slowly. "I promise." Clara woke to warmth. Real warmth, not the false heat that comes before freezing to death. She was lying on a rug wrapped in quilts that smelled like cedar, and something else. Something that made her chest ache. Home. They smelled like home. She sat up slowly, her body screaming in protest. Every muscle ached. Her face throbbed where Theodore Blackwood's father had struck her. Not pretty enough, not young enough, not good enough. The words echoed in her skull like church bells. "You're awake." Clara turned. A little boy stood in the doorway, 6, maybe 7 years old, with wheat-colored hair and solemn blue eyes. He clutched a wooden horse in one hand. "I'm Samuel," he said, "but everyone calls me Sam." "Hello, Sam." Her voice came out rusty. "I'm Clara." "I know. You told Papa last night." He crept closer, studying her with the directness only children possess. "Why were you wearing a wedding dress?" "Samuel." Nate appeared behind his son, lifting him easily onto one hip. "Let Miss Clara rest." "But I want to know." "Kitchen. Help Lily with breakfast." Samuel squirmed but obeyed, casting one last curious glance at Clara before disappearing. Nate set a tin cup beside her, coffee still steaming. "How you feeling?" "Like I got run over by a stagecoach." "You looked like it too." Despite everything, Clara almost smiled. Almost. She took the coffee, wrapping her hands around the warmth. "Thank you. For last night. For letting me stay." Nate pulled a chair across from her and sat heavily. Up close she could see the lines around his eyes, the silver threading through his dark hair. He wasn't old, maybe mid-30s, but life had worn on him. "You gonna tell me what happened?" Clara stared at the fire. The logs popped and crackled, sparks dancing upward. "I came from Ohio," she said finally. "Mail-order bride. Man named Theodore Blackwood. His family owns half this territory. We exchanged letters for months. He seemed kind. He seemed—" She swallowed. "He seemed like he wanted me." "What changed?" "He saw me." Nate's brow furrowed. "What?" "His family picked me up at the train station, drove me straight to the church. Theodore was waiting at the altar." Clara's hands tightened around the cup. "He took one look at me and walked away. His father told me I wasn't what they expected. Said the photograph I sent must have been doctored." "Was it?" "No." The word came out harder than she intended. "It was me. Plain old me. Just not pretty enough for Theodore Blackwood, I suppose." Nate was quiet for a long moment. Then, "His father hit you." It wasn't a question. Clara touched her cheekbone, wincing. "When I tried to argue, tried to say there must be some mistake, he grabbed my arm, shoved me down the church steps, told me to find my own way back to wherever I came from. And nobody stopped him. Nobody even looked at me." Silence settled between them. The fire crackled. Somewhere in the kitchen, children's voices rose and fell. "That bruise on your face," Nate said quietly. "That ain't from falling down steps." Clara met his eyes. She didn't know why she told him the truth. Maybe because he was a stranger. Maybe because after everything she had nothing left to lose. "Theodore's father backhanded me when I started crying. Called me a fraud and a whore." Nate's jaw went tight. Something dark flickered in his gray eyes. "Judge Blackwood. You know him?" "Everyone in Cedar Hollow knows him. Owns most of the land, most of the businesses. Thinks he owns the people too." Nate's hands curled into fists on his knees. "I'm sorry, Miss Clara. That ain't how folks should be treated. Not by anyone." "Clara, She said it without thinking. Just Clara. I ain't a miss anything anymore. All right, Clara. He stood, moving toward the window. Storm's still coming down hard. Roads won't be passable for days. I can leave. Where? He turned to face her. You got money, family, anywhere to go. She didn't answer. They both knew she didn't. You'll stay here until the storm breaks. After that, he ran a hand through his hair. We'll figure something out. I won't be Charity. Didn't offer you charity. His voice was gruff. I got 5 children, 100 head of horses, and no help. You want to stay, you work. Fair trade. Clara studied him, this weathered rancher with tired eyes and a house full of motherless children. He wasn't offering her pity. He was offering her something far more valuable. Dignity. Fair trade, she repeated. Nate nodded once and headed for the kitchen, pausing at the doorway. Breakfast in 10 minutes. Lily makes biscuits that could break teeth, but the gravy's decent. Mr. Callahan. Nate. Nate. She hesitated. Why are you helping me? You don't know me. I could be anyone. He looked at her for a long moment. Something passed across his face. Pain, maybe. Memory. I know what it's like to be left behind, he said finally. I know what it's like when the world decides you ain't worth saving. Then he was gone, his boots heavy on the wooden floor. Clara sat alone by the fire, the tin cup cooling in her hands. She didn't cry. She'd used up all her tears on that church steps on the long frozen walk to this barn. But something shifted in her chest, something small and fragile, something that felt dangerously like hope. The children surrounded Clara at breakfast like a pack of curious wolves. Lily, 9 years old and sharp as a new blade, served biscuits with practiced efficiency. The twins Emma and Ethan were 7, with matching dark curls and mischievous eyes. Samuel sat beside Clara, his wooden horse positioned on the table like a guardian. And in Lily's arms, baby Rose, barely 18 months old, watched Clara with wide, solemn eyes. How come you were in a wedding dress? Ethan asked around a mouthful of biscuit. Don't talk with your mouth full, Lily said automatically. But I want to know. Me too, Emma chimed in. Were you getting married? Where's your husband? There ain't no husband, Clara said quietly. He changed his mind. Silence fell over the table. Even the twins stopped chewing. That's mean, Samuel said finally. Why would he do that? Sometimes people just change their mind. Did you do something wrong? Lily asked. Her voice wasn't accusatory, just curious the way children are before they learn to judge. No. Clara met the girl's eyes. I didn't do anything wrong. I just wasn't what he wanted. Lily considered this, then nodded slowly. His loss. The statement was so matter-of-fact, so absolute, that Clara felt her throat tighten. Eat your breakfast, Nate said from the head of the table, but Clara caught the slight softening around his eyes. Pride, maybe, in his daughter's quiet kindness. Miss Clara, Samuel tugged her sleeve. Can you braid hair? Lily does our hair, but she says hers is too hard to reach. Samuel, Lily started. I can braid hair, Clara said. My mama taught me. I can do all kinds of braids. Samuel beamed. See, Lily. She can help you. Lily's face flickered wariness and longing battling beneath the surface. You don't have to. I want to. Clara surprised herself with how much she meant it. After breakfast, if that's all right. Nate stood gathering plates. Storm won't let up for a while. Plenty of time for braiding. He paused by Clara's chair. When you're feeling up to it, I could use help in the barn. Horses need tending, storm or no storm. I can work now. After breakfast, and after you get some more rest. His tone left no room for argument. You collapsed in my barn 12 hours ago. You ain't going anywhere until you can walk straight. He left, taking the dirty plates with him. Clara watched him go, this strange, gruff man who'd pulled her from the snow and demanded nothing in return except honest work. "Papa's always like that," Lily said, reading Clara's expression. "He sounds mean, but he ain't. Not really." "He's sad," Samuel added, "ever since Mama died." "Samuel," Lily's voice sharpened. "We don't talk about that. Why not Miss Clara should know, so she understands." Clara looked between the children. "You don't have to tell me anything you don't want to." "Mama died having Rose," Lily said quietly. "4 years ago. Papa rode through a blizzard to get the doctor, but—" She swallowed. "He didn't make it back in time." "She died in the barn," Samuel whispered. "Papa found her in the hay, just like he found you." The air left Clara's lungs. She understood now. Why Nate's hands had shaken when he carried her. Why he'd looked at her like he was seeing a ghost. "I'm sorry," she said. "I'm so sorry." "It ain't your fault." Lily shifted Rose to her other hip. "But that's why Papa don't let people in. He's scared. Scared of loving someone and losing them again." "Lily." Emma tugged her sister's sleeve. "You're telling secrets." "She should know, if she's gonna stay." Clara met Lily's eyes gray, like her father's, old beyond her years. "I don't want to cause your family any trouble." "You won't." Lily's chin lifted. "Papa's been frozen since Mama died. Maybe you can help thaw him out." Before Clara could respond, the front door banged open. Nate stood in the doorway, snow swirling behind him. "Storm's getting worse. I need to check the horses." His eyes found Clara. "You up for it?" She was exhausted. Her body ached. Her face throbbed. "Yes," she said anyway. "I'm up for it." The barn was cold but sheltered from the wind. Nate moved between stalls, checking each horse with practiced efficiency while Clara followed, learning the routine. "This is Dusty, oldest horse on the ranch, 17 years and still stubborn as the day I bought him. He's beautiful. He's a pain in my backside." But Nate's hand was gentle as he stroked the horse's nose. "Come on, meet the others." They worked their way through the barn, Dusty, then Storm, then a nervous mare named Penny, then the foal she'd birthed in October. Clara learned to check water troughs, to recognize the signs of colic, to speak softly so the horses wouldn't spook. "You're good at this," Nate said, watching her calm Penny with quiet words and steady hands. "Done it before. My father kept horses. Before he died." Clara ran her fingers through Penny's mane. "I grew up in barns. Felt more at home there than anywhere else." "What happened to your father?" "Accident. I was 19. Horse threw him." She paused. "Mama had already passed by then. Fever 2 years earlier. I was alone after that." Nate was quiet. Then, "That why you answered the mail order ad?" "Partly." Clara kept her eyes on Penny. "I worked as a seamstress for a few years, saved everything I could. But a woman alone—" She shook her head. "I wanted a family, a home, something that belonged to me." "And you thought Theodore Blackwood could give you that?" "I thought anyone could give me that." The words came out bitter. "I was wrong." Nate moved to the next stall, but his voice softened. "What did his letters say, the ones that made you think he was worth the trip?" "He said he was lonely. Said he wanted a partner, not just a wife. Said he didn't care about beauty or breeding. He wanted someone real." Clara laughed, hollow and harsh. "Guess he lied. Men do that. You don't seem like the type." Nate's hands stilled on the harness he was mending. "I've done my share of lying. Mostly to myself." "About what?" He didn't answer for a long moment. The wind howled outside, rattling the barn doors. A horse whinnied nervously. "After Sarah died," he said finally, "I told myself I didn't need anyone. Told myself I was better off alone, that the children were better off with a father who didn't feel anything than a father who might break." And now? Now I got 5 kids who barely remember their mother and a ranch that's falling apart because I can't do it all myself. He turned to face her. I told myself I was protecting them, but I think I was just scared. Clara recognized that fear. She'd seen it in her own mirror every morning. Being scared ain't weakness, she said. It's just being human. That what they taught you in Ohio? That's what I taught myself. After my parents died, after I realized nobody was coming to save me. She stepped closer, close enough to see the flecks of blue in his gray eyes. You saved yourself, Mr. Callahan. You raised 5 children alone. That ain't weakness. That's strength. Nate's jaw worked. Something flickered in his expression. Pain, yes, but something else too. Something warmer. Nate, he said quietly. I told you to call me Nate. Nate! The name felt different this time. Intimate, real. The barn door crashed open. Samuel tumbled through, snow-covered and breathless. Papa! Papa! There's riders coming! 3 of them! Nate grabbed the rifle from its hook, his body shifting instantly to alert. Stay here, he told Clara. Both of you. He was out the door before she could argue. Clara pulled Samuel close, her heart hammering. Through the gap in the barn door, she could see 3 men on horseback, their shapes dark against the swirling white. And at the front, astride a black horse that cost more than this whole ranch, sat Judge Harrison Blackwood. Callahan. The judge's voice cut through the wind like a blade. He sat tall in his saddle, silver hair swept back, eyes cold as the December sky. Judge Blackwood. Nate kept his rifle lowered but ready. What brings you out in this storm? You know damn well what brings me out. The judge's gaze swept to the barn, and Clara felt it like a physical touch. Word is, you've taken in a certain woman. The one my son had the good sense to reject. Word travels fast. Not fast enough, apparently. I'm here to collect her. Collect her. Nate's voice went flat. Like livestock. Watch your tone, Callahan. You're already on thin ice in this town. A widower taking in a strange woman, people are talking. Let 'em talk. This isn't a request. The judge leaned forward in his saddle. That woman is a liar and a fraud. She came here under false pretenses, tried to trap my son into marriage with a doctored photograph. Funny, she tells it different. She's also barren. The word hung in the air, ugly and cold. Theodore's fortunate I discovered it before the wedding. Can you imagine a Blackwood heir marrying a woman who can't even bear children? The judge's lip curled. She's worthless, Callahan. Send her out, and we'll take her off your hands. Behind Nate, the barn door creaked. He didn't turn, but he felt Clara step out into the snow. Clara. I can speak for myself. She walked forward until she stood beside Nate, her chin high despite the fear in her eyes. The judge's gaze raked over her, the bruise on her cheekbone, the split lip he'd given her. Miss Hartwell, looking worse for wear, I see. That tends to happen when someone backhands you down a flight of stairs, Judge. One of the riders shifted uncomfortably. The judge's expression didn't change. You should have stayed down, he said. Instead, you've made this complicated. I ain't leaving. Clara's voice shook, but held. Not with you. Not ever. You don't have a choice, girl. She does. Nate stepped forward, rifle rising slightly. You're on my land, Blackwood, and this woman is under my roof. That makes her my responsibility. Your responsibility? The judge laughed. You can barely feed your own children, Callahan. Everyone knows your ranch is one bad winter away from collapse. What are you going to do, marry her? The silence stretched. Nate didn't look at Clara, didn't move. But something in his expression shifted, a hardening, a decision being made. Maybe I will. The words surprised everyone, including Nate himself. The judge's face went purple. You're joking. Do I look like I'm joking? You'd ruin yourself, your children, your name, for what a barren woman with nothing to offer. She's got more to offer than you'll ever understand." Nate's voice was quiet but certain. "Now get off my land, before I decide to stop being neighborly." The judge stared at him for a long moment. Then he yanked his horse's reins, turning in a spray of snow. "This isn't over, Callahan. You'll regret this." "Maybe, but not today." The riders disappeared into the storm. Nate lowered the rifle, his hands trembling slightly. Clara stood frozen beside him, her heart pounding. "Did you mean it?" she whispered. "What you said?" Nate finally looked at her. His gray eyes were unreadable, storm-dark and deep. "I don't know," he admitted, "but I wasn't going to let him take you." "Why?" He didn't answer, just turned and walked back toward the barn, his footsteps disappearing in the falling snow. Clara stood alone in the cold, the judge's words echoing in her skull. Barren, worthless, nothing to offer. But Nate had defended her anyway, had stood against the most powerful man in the territory. For her. A woman he'd known less than a day. She looked toward the house where 5 small faces pressed against the frost-covered window. Watching. Waiting. Maybe she wasn't worthless after all. Maybe she was exactly where she was supposed to be. Clara didn't sleep that night. She lay on the pallet Lily had made for her near the fireplace, staring at the ceiling, replaying the judge's words until they carved grooves in her brain. Barren, worthless, nothing to offer. And then, Nate's voice cutting through the cold. "Maybe I will." He hadn't meant it. She knew that. It was a bluff, a way to make the judge back down. But the words had landed somewhere deep in her chest and refused to leave. Footsteps creaked on the floorboards. Clara turned her head to find Samuel standing beside her, his wooden horse clutched against his nightshirt. "Can't sleep," he whispered. "Me neither." "Can I sit with you?" Clara lifted the edge of her blanket. Samuel crawled underneath, curling against her side like a puppy seeking warmth. His small body trembled. "Bad dream?" she asked. "I dream about Mama sometimes. About finding her in the barn." His voice was barely audible. "Papa don't know I remember, but I do." Clara's throat tightened. "You were so young." "I was almost 3. Lily says I shouldn't remember. But I do." He pressed closer. "You smell nice, like Mama used to." "What did your mama smell like?" "Bread and flowers." Samuel yawned. "Will you stay, Miss Clara? Will you stay forever?" "I don't know, sweetheart. That ain't up to me." "It's up to Papa." "Yes. He wants you to stay. I can tell." "How can you tell?" "Because he talks to you. He don't talk to nobody." Samuel's eyes drifted closed. "Stay, please. We need you." Clara held him until his breathing deepened into sleep. She stared at the fire, watching the flames dance and die. "We need you." When was the last time anyone had needed her? Morning came gray and bitter. Clara woke to find Samuel gone and the smell of coffee filling the small house. She rose stiffly, her muscles protesting, and found Lily at the stove. "Papa's already in the barn," Lily said without turning. "Twins are doing their lessons. Samuel's supposed to be helping, but he's probably hiding." "Where's Rose?" "Sleeping. She'll wake hungry in about 10 minutes. Always does." Clara moved to the stove. "Let me help." "You don't have to." "I want to." Lily finally looked at her. Those gray eyes, so like her father's, searched Clara's face. "You mean that, don't you?" "I do. Most folks who come through here, they look at us like we're charity cases. Poor motherless children, poor struggling widower." Lily's jaw tightened. "We ain't charity." "I know you ain't. We take care of ourselves." "I know that too." Clara took the spatula from Lily's hand. "But maybe you don't have to. Not all the time. Not anymore." Something flickered across Lily's face. Hope, maybe. Or fear. Sometimes they looked the same. "The eggs are burning," Lily said quietly. "Then let's save them." They worked side by side in silence, but the silence felt different now. Less like a wall and more like a bridge. After breakfast, Clara bundled herself in Sarah's old coat and headed for the barn. She found Nate mucking out stalls, his movements sharp and efficient. "Thought I told you to rest," he said, without looking up. "I rested. Now I'm working." "Stubborn woman." "Stubborn man." He glanced at her then, and something passed between them. Not warmth exactly. Something rawer. Recognition. "Penny needs brushing," he said. "Think you can handle that?" "I can handle most things, Mr. Callahan." "Nate?" "Nate." She grabbed a brush and entered Penny's stall. The mare nickered softly, pressing her nose against Clara's shoulder. "She likes you," Nate said from the doorway. "Animals always did like me better than people." "Can't imagine why." Was that a joke Clara couldn't tell? Nate's face gave nothing away. They worked through the morning, the silence between them comfortable, rather than strained. Clara learned the rhythms of the barn, which horses needed extra attention, which ones spooked at sudden movements, which ones would try to bite if you turned your back. "You're good at this," Nate said around midday. "Better than I expected." "I told you, I grew up with horses." Most women who grow up with horses, they ride them. They don't muck stalls. Most women didn't have my father. Clara wiped sweat from her forehead. He believed everyone should know every job. Said you can't lead if you don't understand the work. Smart man. He was. Clara's voice softened. "I miss him. Every day." Nate was quiet for a moment. Then, "I miss Sarah like that. Like a piece of me got cut away and I'm still bleeding. Does it get easier?" "No. You just get better at hiding it." Clara stopped brushing, looked at him directly. "That ain't healthy. Neither is surviving a Montana winter alone with 5 kids. But here we are." "Here we are," she echoed. The barn door banged open. Emma tumbled through, her face streaked with tears. "Papa, Papa, Ethan fell through the ice." Nate dropped his pitchfork and ran. Clara followed, her heart pounding against her ribs. They sprinted across the snow-covered yard toward the creek that bordered the property. She could hear it now, a child screaming high and terrified. Ethan was chest-deep in the frozen creek, clinging to a branch that wouldn't hold much longer. The ice around him cracked and groaned. "Don't move," Nate shouted. "Don't move, son. Papa, I can't. I can't feel my legs. You hold on. You hear me. You hold on." Nate dropped to his belly and started crawling across the ice. Clara grabbed his ankle. "You'll go through too," she said. "You're too heavy. Let go of me." "I'm lighter. I'll go." "Like hell you will." "There ain't time to argue." She shoved past him and dropped to her stomach, spreading her weight across the ice. It groaned beneath her, but held. She crawled forward, inch by inch, her breath coming in short gasps. "Miss Clara?" Ethan's voice cracked with fear. "Miss Clara, please." "I'm coming, sweetheart. I'm coming. You just hold on." The ice cracked. Clara's hand plunged through into water so cold it burned. She bit back a scream and kept crawling. 10 feet. 5 feet. 3. She reached Ethan just as the branch snapped. Her hand closed around his wrist, and she pulled with everything she had. The boy came up out of the water, blue-lipped and shaking, and Clara rolled them both toward solid ground. Nate was there in an instant, grabbing Ethan, pressing the boy against his chest. I got you, son. You're okay." "I'm sorry, Papa. I wanted to see if the ice would hold. Don't talk. Just breathe." Clara lay on the frozen ground, her arm numb to the elbow, watching Nate carry his son toward the house. Emma ran beside them, crying and apologizing. It took Clara 3 tries to stand. Her whole body shook from cold, from fear, from the aftermath of adrenaline. She'd almost lost him. This little boy she'd known for barely 2 days. She'd almost watched him drown. Something inside her cracked open. Something she'd kept locked away since her parents died. She wasn't just passing through anymore. She couldn't be. These children needed her, and she needed them. Inside the house, chaos reigned. Lily had already stripped Ethan down and wrapped him in every blanket they owned. Samuel was crying in the corner. Emma couldn't stop apologizing. Rose wailed from her cradle, picking up on the fear in the room. "Everybody quiet!" Nate's voice cut through the noise. "Lily, get the kettle on. Samuel, stop crying and help your sister with Rose. Emma, you sit down and catch your breath." The children obeyed instantly. Nate knelt beside Ethan, rubbing the boy's arms and legs to get the blood flowing. Clara moved to the kettle, her frozen hand screaming in protest. She didn't care. There was work to do. "You're hurt." She turned. Nate stood behind her, his eyes on her arm. "It's nothing." "Let me see." "The children are fine. Let me see." He took her hand gently, turning it over. The skin was red and raw, already starting to blister. "This ain't nothing," he said quietly. "It'll heal. You could have lost fingers. You could have gone through the ice yourself. But I didn't." "Why?" His voice was rough. "Why risk yourself for my boy?" Clara met his eyes. "Because he's a child. Because he was scared. Because nobody should die alone in the cold. You barely know us." "I know enough." Nate stared at her for a long moment. Then he did something that surprised them both. He raised her injured hand to his lips and pressed a kiss against her frozen fingers. "Thank you," he whispered. "Thank you for saving my son." Clara couldn't speak, couldn't breathe, could only stand there, her hand in his, feeling something shift between them that could never shift back. "Papa." They pulled apart. Lily stood in the doorway, her expression unreadable. "Ethan's asking for you." Nate nodded and moved past his daughter. But Lily didn't follow. She stayed watching Clara. "You saved him," Lily said. "Anyone would have—" "No, they wouldn't have." Lily crossed the kitchen and threw her arms around Clara's waist. "Thank you. Thank you for saving my brother." Clara held the girl close, her injured hand throbbing, her heart racing. "You're welcome, sweetheart. You're welcome." The days that followed blurred together. Clara's hand healed slowly, the blisters fading to pink scars that would mark her for life. But she didn't mind. Every time she looked at them, she remembered Ethan's face when she pulled him from the water. Remembered the way Nate had kissed her fingers. She threw herself into the work of the ranch. Feeding horses, mending fences, helping Lily with the cooking and the younger children. She learned the rhythms of this household breakfast at dawn chores until noon lessons and the afternoon dinner by firelight. And slowly, impossibly, she became part of it. Samuel started climbing into her lap during evening reading time. Emma asked her to braid her hair like Lily's. Ethan followed her around the barn, asking endless questions about horses and Ohio, and whether she'd ever seen a real train. Even Rose, who'd been shy at first, started reaching for Clara when she cried, but it was Lily who surprised her most. "Can you teach me to sew?" the girl asked one evening, watching Clara mend a tear in Samuel's shirt. "You don't know how Mama was going to teach me, but then—" Lily swallowed. Then she wasn't. Clara patted the seat beside her. "Come here." She taught Lily the basics, threading a needle, making small even stitches, tying off the thread. The girl learned fast, her small fingers nimble and sure. "You're a natural," Clara said. "Mama was good at sewing. Maybe I got it from her." "I'm sure you did." Lily was quiet for a moment, focused on her stitches. Then, "Do you think Mama would have liked you?" Clara's needle stilled. "I don't know. I hope so." "I think she would have." Lily looked up, her gray eyes serious. I think she would have been glad Papa found someone. Your Papa hasn't found anything. I'm just here for the winter. Are you? Clara didn't answer. Couldn't answer. Because the truth was, she didn't know anymore. 2 weeks after the creek incident, Nate rode to town for supplies. He came back with a face like thunder. What happened? Clara asked as he stomped into the barn. Nothing. Nate. He stopped, turned. His jaw was tight, his hands clenched at his sides. Blackwood's been talking, spreading stories about you, about us. Clara's stomach dropped. What kind of stories? The kind that make decent folks cross the street when they see me coming. Nate kicked a bucket, sending it clattering across the floor. The kind that make the preacher's wife whisper behind her hand. I'm sorry. I never meant. This ain't your fault. Of course it's my fault. If I hadn't come here. If you hadn't come here, you'd be dead in a snowbank somewhere. Nate's voice cracked. Don't you dare apologize for surviving. What are they saying? Exactly. He was quiet for a long moment. Then, that you're my mistress, that I've been keeping you here for, that I've been using you. Clara felt the blood drain from her face. And the children? They're saying I'm setting a poor example, that my kids are learning to live in sin. Nate's voice went raw. The mercantile owner Patterson, he told me maybe I should find somewhere else to buy my supplies. Then I'll leave, tonight. I'll find another town. No. Nate. I said no. He crossed the distance between them in 2 strides. I already lost one woman because I couldn't protect her. I ain't losing another. Clara's breath caught. What are you saying? I'm saying... He ran a hand through his hair, looking lost and frustrated and younger than his years. I'm saying I don't know what I'm saying. I'm saying this whole thing is a mess, and I don't know how to fix it. You can't fix everything. I can try. Why? Clara grabbed his arm, forcing him to look at her. Why do you care so much? I'm nobody. I'm just some woman who fell into your barn. You ain't nobody. His voice dropped low. Not to me, not to my children. Nate. I know it's too soon. I know we barely know each other. I know everything about this is wrong and complicated and probably going to end in disaster. He cupped her face in his hands, rough calluses gentle against her cheeks. But when I saw you crawling across that ice for my boy, when I watched you hold my daughter while she cried, something in me woke up Clara. Something I thought died with Sarah. Don't say things you don't mean. I ain't said a thing I don't mean in my entire life. His thumbs traced her cheekbones. Stay. Not just for the winter. Stay. The town. Damn the town. Your children. Love you already. Any fool can see that. I can't give you more children. The words tore out of her ugly and desperate. I'm barren, remember I'm worthless. Stop. His voice was fierce. Don't you ever use that word again. You hear me? I got 5 children, Clara. 5. I don't need more. I need someone to help me raise the ones I got. Tears spilled down Clara's cheeks. You don't understand. I'm broken. I'm perfect. He kissed her forehead. You're perfect. I'm not. To me you are. He kissed her then, soft and slow and full of promise. Clara's hands fisted in his shirt, pulling him closer, tasting salt and coffee, and something that felt terrifyingly like hope. When they finally pulled apart, both breathing hard, Nate rested his forehead against hers. I ain't asking you to marry me today, he said. I'm asking you to consider it, to think about what we could be if we gave this a chance. And if it doesn't work, then at least we tried. At least we didn't let fear make the choice for us. Clara closed her eyes. She thought about her parents dead and gone, thought about the letters from Theodore, all lies, thought about the judge's cruel words, the town's whispers, the weight of all her failures. And then she thought about Samuel crawling into her lap, Emma's braids, Ethan's endless questions, Lily's fierce loyalty, Rose's tiny fingers wrapped around her own. She thought about Nate, this stubborn, broken, beautiful man who'd pulled her from the snow and given her a reason to live. "Okay," she whispered. "Okay. I'll stay. I'll consider it." Nate smiled. It transformed his face, stripping away years of grief and worry. For one moment, Clara saw the man he must have been, before young, hopeful, unbroken. "That's all I'm asking. But we have to be careful. The children will be fine. Better than fine." He kissed her again, quick and fierce. "We're gonna figure this out, Clara. Together. Together." The word wrapped around her like a blanket. Maybe for the first time in her life, she didn't have to be alone. The next Sunday, Nate loaded the entire family into the wagon and drove to church. "You sure about this?" Clara asked, her hands twisting in her lap. "Nope, but we're doing it anyway." The church fell silent when they walked in. Every head turned. Every eye stared. Clara felt the weight of their judgment pressing down on her like a physical force, but Nate's hand was steady on the small of her back. And when she looked down, she saw 5 small figures arranged around her like soldiers. Lily on her left chin, high, daring anyone to say a word. The twins flanking their sister faces, set with determination. Samuel clutching Clara's skirt. Even Rose, perched on Lily's hip, seemed to glare at the congregation. "We're together," Lily whispered. "Don't forget that." They walked to an empty pew and sat down. The silence stretched. Then Mrs. Patterson, the mercantile owner's wife, leaned across the aisle. "Some nerve you've got bringing that woman here." "I beg your pardon?" Nate's voice was dangerously quiet. "You heard me. It ain't right. It ain't Christian. That woman's been spreading her legs." "Finish that sentence." Nate stood slowly. "Go on. Finish it." Mrs. Patterson's face went red, but she pressed on. "Everyone knows what kind of woman she is. Everyone knows what you've been—" "What I've been doing," Nate interrupted, "is raising my children. What she's been doing is helping me. She saved my son's life last week, pulled him out of the creek when he fell through the ice. She's got scars on her hand to prove it." The congregation murmured. A few heads turned toward Clara's hands folded in her lap. "That don't change what she is," Mrs. Patterson insisted. "A woman who travels alone, who stays in a man's house without a chaperone." "Enough." The voice came from the back of the church. Everyone turned. An elderly woman stood in the doorway. White hair, weathered face, eyes sharp as flint. Clara didn't recognize her, but from the way the congregation shifted, she knew this woman mattered. "Mrs. Dawson," someone whispered. The old woman walked slowly down the aisle, her cane tapping against the wooden floor. She stopped beside the Callahan pew and looked at Clara. "You're the girl they left at the altar." Clara's throat tightened. "Yes, ma'am." "Judge Blackwood's boy." "Yes, ma'am." Mrs. Dawson studied her for a long moment. Then she turned to face the congregation. 40 years ago, I came to this territory with nothing. My husband had died on the trail. I had 3 children and no money, no family." Her voice carried to every corner of the church. "A man took me in, gave me a roof over my head. Later he gave me his name. We were married 53 years before he passed." She looked at Mrs. Patterson with contempt. "That man was my late husband, Robert Dawson, the founder of this church." Her cane struck the floor. "And if any of you had dared speak to me the way you've been speaking to this young woman, Robert would have run you out of town himself." The silence was absolute. "Charity is not a sin," Mrs. Dawson continued. "Compassion is not a sin. A man providing shelter to a woman in need is not a sin." She turned to Clara, who, "What's your name, child?" "Clara. Clara Hartwell." "Well, Clara Hartwell, you're welcome in this church. You're welcome in this town." She shot a look at the congregation. "And anyone who disagrees can take it up with me." No one moved. No one spoke. Mrs. Dawson settled into the pew beside Clara. "There. Now can we get on with the service? I didn't walk all this way to listen to gossip." Clara felt a hand slip into hers, Samuel pressing close. "I like her," he whispered loudly. Despite everything, Clara smiled. After the service, the congregation dispersed in small groups, shooting glances at Clara and the Callahans. Some were hostile, some were curious. But no one approached them, not with Mrs. Dawson standing guard like an elderly sentinel. "Thank you," Clara said to the old woman. "You didn't have to do that." "Course I did. Someone had to." Mrs. Dawson patted her arm. "Judge Blackwood's been running this town too long. About time someone reminded folks he ain't God." "Why help me?" "You don't know me." "I know enough." Mrs. Dawson's eyes softened. "I know what it's like to be alone and scared and judged for things that ain't your fault. I know what it's like to find salvation in unexpected places." She glanced at Nate, standing by the wagon with his children. "And I know love when I see it." "It's not we haven't." "Child, I'm 82 years old. I've seen more romance than a dime novel. You two are gone on each other whether you admit it or not." Clara's face burned. Mrs. Dawson laughed. "Go on now. Your family's waiting." Your family. The words hit Clara like a blow. She walked to the wagon in a daze. Nate helped her up, his hand lingering on her waist. "You okay?" he asked quietly. "I don't know." She looked at him, at the children arranged in the wagon bed at the church where she'd been defended by a stranger. "I think I might be more than okay." Nate smiled. "That's good, because I think this is just the beginning." He clicked to the horses, and the wagon rolled forward, leaving the whispers behind. But as they passed the church steps, Clara saw a figure standing in the shadows. Judge Harrison Blackwood watching them go, his face twisted with rage. This wasn't over. Not by a long shot. The trouble came 3 days later. Clara was hanging laundry when she heard the hoofbeats. 3 riders coming fast up the road. She dropped the shirt in her hands and ran for the house. "Lily, take the children inside, now!" Lily didn't ask questions. She grabbed Rose from the cradle and herded the others toward the back room. "Samuel, get the rifle Papa keeps under his bed." "But Lily..." "Do it." Clara stood on the porch as the riders approached. She recognized Judge Blackwood immediately, tall in the saddle, silver hair, gleaming face carved from stone. Beside him rode 2 men she didn't know. Both wore badges. "Miss Hartwell." The judge's voice was pleasant. Too pleasant. "We need to have a conversation." "Nate ain't here." "I'm aware. That's rather the point." He dismounted smoothly. "These gentlemen are Deputy Marshal Grimes and Deputy Marshal Foster. They've come all the way from Helena." Clara's blood ran cold. "What do you want?" "Want?" The judge smiled. "I want justice, Miss Hartwell. You came to this territory under false pretenses. You engaged in fraud, and now you're living in sin with a man whose reputation you've destroyed." "I ain't done nothing wrong." "The law might disagree." One of the deputies stepped forward. "Ma'am, we've received a complaint alleging mail fraud, theft of services, and moral corruption of minors." "That's absurd." "Is it?" The judge's smile widened. "You accepted money from my son for travel expenses. You promised to fulfill a marriage contract. When you failed to deliver on that promise, you kept the money and took up residence with another man." He spread his hands. "Sounds like fraud to me. Your son rejected me. He took one look at me and walked away." "That's not what Theodore says." Clara's hands trembled. "Then Theodore's a liar." The judge's pleasant mask slipped. Just for a moment, just long enough for Clara to see the venom beneath. "Watch yourself, girl. You're in enough trouble already." The front door opened. Lily stepped onto the porch, Samuel's rifle clutched in her small hands. "Get off our property." "Lily, no." Clara started. You heard me. The girl's voice shook, but the rifle stayed level. This is our land. You ain't welcome here. The judge laughed. How precious. The motherless brat thinks she's a gunfighter. Call me that again. Lily. Clara moved between the girl and the men. Put the rifle down. But Clara... Now, please. Slowly, reluctantly, Lily lowered the weapon. But she didn't retreat. The judge turned back to Clara. You have two choices, Miss Hartwell. Come with us voluntarily and face the charges in Helena, or resist and add obstruction to your crimes. She ain't going nowhere. Everyone turned. Nate stood at the corner of the house, his own rifle aimed at the judge's chest. Get off my land, Blackwood. Mr. Callahan, finally the man of the hour. I ain't gonna ask again. The judge sighed. This is unfortunate. I was hoping we could handle this civilly. He gestured to his deputies. Arrest him. On what charge? Nate's voice was deadly calm. Harboring a fugitive, intimidating officers of the law. Take your pick. She ain't a fugitive. She ain't nothing but a woman your son threw away like garbage. My son made a wise decision. This creature is Baron Callahan. Worthless. She can't give you children. I got 5 children. I don't need more. Then you're as much a fool as she is. The deputies moved toward Nate. He swung the rifle toward them. Take another step. Papa, don't... Lily's voice cracked. Clara grabbed Nate's arm. Stop. Both of you stop. Clara, this is what he wants. Don't you see? He wants you to fight. He wants an excuse to take you away to leave the children alone. Her voice dropped low. Think about them, Nate. Think about what happens to them if you're in jail. Nate's jaw worked. His rifle stayed aimed at the deputies. Please, Clara whispered. Let me handle this. Slowly, painfully, Nate lowered the weapon. Clara turned to the judge. What do you want? Really? I told you. Justice. No. You want me gone. You want me out of your territory, out of your sight where I can't embarrass your precious family. She took a breath. If I leave, if I go back to Ohio tonight, will you drop the charges? Clara, no. Nate started. Will you? The judge considered her. I might be persuaded. If you leave immediately, and if you sign a document admitting that you engaged in fraud and misrepresentation. I ain't signing nothing. Then we're at an impasse. Take me instead. Everyone stared at Nate. What? Clara breathed. You want someone to punish Blackwood? Take me. Let her stay with the children until I'm cleared. You know damn well those charges won't hold up in any real court. Interesting proposal. The judge stroked his chin. But I'm afraid it doesn't serve my purposes. And what are your purposes? To protect my family's name. To ensure that trash like Miss Hartwell doesn't pollute our community. The judge's eyes glittered. And to teach you a lesson about defying me, Callahan. You've been a thorn in my side for years. Your wife was the same way, always stirring up trouble, always questioning my decisions. Nate went very still. Don't talk about Sarah. Why not? She's dead. She can't hear us. I said don't. She died in your barn, didn't she? Bleeding out in the hay while you rode around in circles looking for a doctor who wasn't coming. The judge smiled. Some would call that negligence. Some would say you killed her yourself. Nate lunged. Clara caught him throwing her full weight against his chest. No, Nate. No, let go of me. He's baiting you. Can't you see that? The deputies had their guns drawn, now aimed at Nate's head. Stand down, Callahan, Grimes said, or we will shoot you in front of your children. From inside the house, Clara heard Samuel crying. Rose was wailing. The twins were shouting. Lily stood frozen on the porch, her face white as snow. Please, Clara said again. Please, Nate, for them. Something in him broke. She could see it, the fight going out of him, leaving behind something hollow and defeated. "Fine," he whispered. "Fine." The judge straightened his coat. "A wise decision. Now, Miss Hartwell." "I'll go." The words left her mouth before she could stop them. "I'll go with you. Tonight. Just leave them alone. Leave him and the children alone." "Clara." Nate's voice cracked. "Promise me." She faced the judge. "Promise me you'll drop all the charges, against me and against him, and that you'll never bother this family again. You have my word as a gentleman." "Your word ain't worth spit." "Then you have no choice but to trust it." The judge gestured to the wagon. "Shall we?" Clara turned to Nate. His face was ravaged, years of grief and fear carved into every line. "Don't do this," he said. "We'll find another way." "There ain't another way." She touched his face, memorizing every detail. "Take care of them. Promise me." "Clara, promise me." His voice shattered. "I promise." She kissed him, hard and desperate and final. Then she pulled away and walked toward the judge's wagon. Behind her, she heard Lily scream. "No, no, you can't take her. Clara." "Lily, stay back." "She's our family. She's ours." Clara didn't turn around. Couldn't turn around. If she saw their faces, she'd never be able to leave. The judge helped her into the wagon with mocking courtesy. "Comfortable? Go to hell. Language, Miss Hartwell. You're in the presence of officers of the law." The wagon lurched forward. Clara gripped the seat, fighting the urge to jump off and run back. This was the right thing, the only thing. Nate and the children would be safe. The charges would be dropped. Life would go on, without her. She pressed her hand against her chest, feeling her heart break in two. They'd gone less than a mile when she heard it. Hoofbeats, coming fast. The judge frowned. "Who?" A rider burst over the hill. Then another. Then another. Clara's breath caught. Nate rode at the front, rifle in hand. Behind him came more riders, men she recognized from church, from town. And at the very back, riding side saddle with murder in her eyes, came Mrs. Dawson. "Stop the wagon," Nate ordered. The deputies reached for their guns, but they were outnumbered now. A dozen armed men surrounded them, and more were coming. "This is an official law enforcement action," Grimes protested. "You're interfering with—" "Shut up." Nate rode forward until he was level with the judge. "Let her go." "This is ridiculous. You can't—" "I said let her go." "On whose authority?" "Mine." A new voice. Clara turned. A man rode through the crowd, tall, silver-haired, wearing a badge that caught the winter sun. "Marshal Jennings," the judge said stiffly. "This is a surprise." "I imagine it is." The marshal stopped his horse beside the wagon. "I got a telegram this morning from a concerned citizen. Something about falsified charges and abuse of authority." He looked at the deputies. "You boys want to explain why you're arresting a woman without a warrant?" Grimes went pale. The judge said, "The judge don't have the authority to order arrests. Only I do." Jennings' eyes hardened. "Let her go, now." Clara climbed down from the wagon on shaking legs. Nate was there in an instant, pulling her against him. "Don't you ever do that again," he whispered fiercely. "Don't you ever try to leave me. I was trying to protect you. I don't want protection. I want you." The judge's face had gone purple. "This isn't over. I'll have all of you arrested. You'll do nothing." Mrs. Dawson rode forward, her old eyes blazing. "I sent that telegram, Harrison, and I'll send 100 more if I have to. You've been ruling this territory like a tyrant for 30 years. It ends today. You have no idea who you're dealing with. I know exactly who I'm dealing with. A bully, a coward, a man who hits women and calls himself a gentleman." Mrs. Dawson's voice rose. "My late husband built this community. He believed in justice and mercy and treating people with dignity. You've made a mockery of everything he stood for." The crowd murmured agreement. Clara saw faces she recognized: the blacksmith, the preacher, even Mrs. Patterson, who wouldn't meet her eyes. This woman, Mrs. Dawson continued, pointing at Clara, has done nothing wrong. She came here looking for a home. She found one, and she's going to keep it. She glared at the judge. Unless you want to argue with me, in which case I'll remind you that I own the land your bank sits on, and I can call in that lease any time I like. The judge's face contorted. For a long moment, Clara thought he might actually attack the old woman. Then something in him collapsed. "This isn't over," he hissed, but his voice had lost its power. "Yes, it is." Nate stepped forward. "You're going to ride away from here. You're going to drop every charge you filed, and you're never going to come near my family again. Or what? Or I'll kill you myself, and not a person here will say different." The crowd pressed closer. The judge looked around, seeing his support evaporate like morning frost. "Deputies," he said finally, "we're leaving." He mounted his horse and rode away without looking back. The deputies followed, faces burning with shame. Clara sagged against Nate. "It's over. It's over. I thought I'd never see you again. I wasn't going to let that happen." He tilted her face up. "I told you. We're in this together. All of us. Papa." The children burst through the crowd. Samuel reached them first, throwing himself at Clara's legs. Then Lily with Rose in her arms. Then the twins crying and laughing at once. "You came back," Emma sobbed. "You came back. I'll always come back." Clara pulled them all close. "I'll always come back for you." The crowd began to disperse. Mrs. Dawson rode up beside them, her old face creased with satisfaction. "Well, that was exciting." "Thank you," Clara said. "I don't know how to repay you. Invite me to the wedding." Mrs. Dawson's eyes twinkled. "That'll be payment enough." She rode off before Clara could respond. Wedding. Lily looked between Clara and her father. What wedding? Nate's ears went red. "We'll talk about it later." "But Papa..." "Later, Lily." The ride home was quiet. Clara sat in the wagon with the children pressed around her. None of them would let go of her. Samuel clung to her left arm, Emma to her right. Ethan sprawled across her lap, and Lily sat so close their shoulders touched. Rose slept peacefully through it all. When they reached the ranch, Nate lifted Clara down from the wagon. His hands lingered on her waist. "I meant what I said, about not letting you go. I know. I mean it about more than just today." Clara's heart stuttered. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying..." He took a breath. "I'm saying I've been frozen for 4 years. I told myself it was for the children, but that was a lie. I was just scared. Scared of losing someone again. Scared of feeling anything at all." "Nate, let me finish." He cupped her face in his work-roughened hands. "You woke me up, Clara. You showed me that living frozen ain't really living. You gave me back my children, not just their bodies, but their hearts, their laughter." His voice cracked. "You gave me back myself." Tears streamed down Clara's face. "I'm still barren. I still can't give you..." "You give me everything." He kissed her forehead, her cheeks, her lips. "You give me more than I ever thought I'd have again." "Papa's gonna marry Miss Clara," Samuel shouted from the porch. "Samuel, hush," Lily started. "But he is. Look at them." Clara laughed through her tears. He hasn't asked." "Then I'm asking." Nate dropped to one knee in the frozen mud. "Clara Hartwell, will you marry me? Will you be my wife and their mother and part of this family forever?" The children went silent. Even Rose stopped fussing. Clara looked down at this man, weathered, scarred, broken, in ways she was only beginning to understand. A man who'd lost everything and learned to survive. A man who'd opened his home to a stranger and found love where he least expected it. "Yes," she whispered. Nate's face transformed. Joy broke through the grief like sunlight through clouds. "Yes," he repeated. "Yes." 1,000 times yes. He swept her into his arms and kissed her, while the children cheered. That night, after the children were asleep, Clara and Nate sat by the fire. Her head rested on his shoulder. His arm wrapped around her waist. "I still can't believe you came after me," she said softly. "I'd come after you anywhere. To the ends of the earth if I had to." "How did you get all those people to help?" "I didn't. Mrs. Dawson did." Nate shook his head. She'd been watching the judge for years, waiting for him to slip up. "When I told her what happened, she rode through town like a woman half her age, knocking on doors and calling in favors. She barely knows me. She knows enough. She knows what it's like to be judged and found wanting." Nate pulled her closer. "This town ain't perfect, but there's more good people than bad. They just needed someone to remind them." "And the marshal." "Mrs. Dawson's nephew, apparently. She'd already telegraphed him before I even got to town." Clara laughed. "That old woman's more dangerous than the judge ever was." "Don't let her hear you say that. She'll take it as a compliment." They sat in comfortable silence, watching the flames dance. "What happens now?" Clara asked. "Now we live. We raise our children. We build something that lasts." Nate kissed the top of her head. "And we never let fear make us small." "Never let fear make us small," Clara repeated. "I like that." Sarah used to say it, the night before she died. His voice went rough. "I forgot it for a long time. You helped me remember." "I wish I could have known her. She would have loved you. I know she would." Clara turned to look at him. "Do you really believe that I know it?" His eyes were soft. "She told me at the end, she told me not to close myself off. Told me the children would need a mother someday, and I'd need a partner. I didn't listen. Not for 4 years. What changed? You fell into my barn." He smiled. "And you refused to stay down." Clara kissed him slow and sweet. "I love you," she whispered. "I love you too." He pulled her onto his lap, holding her like she might disappear. "More than I ever thought I could again." From the loft, a small voice drifted down. "Are you going to kiss all night because some of us are trying to sleep?" Lily's tone was exasperated, but Clara could hear the smile in it. "Go to sleep, Lily," Nate called back. "Hard to do with all that noise." "What noise? We're sitting quietly." "The happy noise. It's very loud." Clara buried her face in Nate's shoulder, laughing. "Sorry," she called up. "We'll try to be miserable." "Too late. Damage is done." A pause, then softer. "But I'm glad. I'm really glad." "Me too, sweetheart." "Me too," Nate echoed. Outside, the winter wind howled, but inside, wrapped in warmth and love and the promise of tomorrow, Clara felt something she'd almost forgotten how to feel. Home. She was finally home. The week before the wedding, Theodore Blackwood rode up to the ranch alone. Clara saw him first. She was in the barn brushing Penny when the sound of hoofbeats made her freeze. Her hand went still on the horse's flank. "Easy, girl," she whispered. But she wasn't sure if she was talking to Penny or herself. Theodore dismounted slowly. He looked different than she remembered, smaller somehow, less imposing. The arrogant tilt of his chin had softened into something that looked almost like shame. "Miss Hartwell." Clara stepped out of the barn, keeping her distance. "Mr. Blackwood." "I came to—" He stopped, swallowed. "I came to apologize." She stared at him. Of all the things she'd expected, this wasn't it. "My father doesn't know I'm here," Theodore continued. "He'd kill me if he found out, but I couldn't. I couldn't let this go on without saying something." "Saying what exactly?" "That I'm sorry. For what happened at the church. For the way my father treated you." His voice cracked. "For everything." Clara's hands clenched at her sides. "You left me on those steps. You looked at me like I was dirt." "I know." Your father hit me, called me a whore. I know. And you did nothing. You just walked away. Theodore's face crumpled. I was a coward. I am a coward. I've been my father's puppet my whole life, doing what he says, marrying who he chooses, living the way he demands. He looked at her with red-rimmed eyes. When I saw you in that church, you were beautiful, Clara. More beautiful than your photograph. More beautiful than any woman I'd ever seen. Clara's breath caught. Then why? Because my father had already decided. Before you even arrived, he'd made up his mind that you weren't good enough. Too poor, too common, too real. Theodore laughed bitterly. He wanted a society girl, someone he could control. When he saw you standing there full of hope and courage, he knew you'd never bend to him. So he rejected me before I could reject him. Yes. Clara was quiet for a long moment. The wind picked up, rattling the barn doors. Why are you telling me this now? Because I'm leaving. Theodore straightened his shoulders. Tomorrow. I've got a ticket to San Francisco. I'm going to start over, find my own life, be my own man. He met her eyes. I wanted you to know before I go that what happened wasn't your fault. It was never your fault. That doesn't change anything. No. But maybe it helps, a little. He turned toward his horse, then paused. The man you're marrying, Callahan, he's a good man, better than me, better than anyone in this territory. I know. You deserve to be happy, Clara. I hope you are. He mounted his horse and rode away without looking back. Clara stood in the yard watching him disappear over the hill. She didn't know what she felt, anger maybe. Relief. Something that might have been forgiveness trying to push through. Who was that? She turned. Nate stood on the porch, his face dark. Theodore Blackwood. Nate's jaw tightened. What did he want? To apologize. Apologize. The word came out flat. He leaves you for dead. His father tries to destroy you, and now he wants to apologize. He's leaving. Going to San Francisco. Good riddance. Clara walked to the porch and took Nate's hands. He told me something. Something I needed to hear. What's that? That what happened wasn't my fault. That his father rejected me because I was too strong to control. She squeezed his fingers. I think I always knew that, but hearing it from him, it helps. Nate's expression softened. You never needed his validation. No, but I'll take it anyway. She rose on tiptoe and kissed his cheek. Now come on, we've got a wedding to plan. The children threw themselves into the preparations with terrifying enthusiasm. Lily took charge of the decorations, ordering her siblings around like a tiny general. Samuel, those ribbons are crooked. Emma, stop eating the dried flowers. Ethan, if you bring one more frog into this house, I swear I'll... But I wanted to show Clara. She doesn't want to see your frog. Actually, Clara said, I'd love to see the frog. Ethan's face lit up. He thrust his hands toward her, revealing a small green creature blinking in confusion. His name's Hector. I found him by the creek. He's beautiful. He's disgusting, Lily muttered. He's both, Clara said diplomatically. But maybe Hector would be happier outside. Fine. Ethan sighed the sigh of the deeply misunderstood. Come on, Hector. Nobody appreciates you. Clara watched him trudge outside, her heart swelling with affection. You're good with them. She turned. Nate stood in the doorway, Rose perched on his hip. They make it easy. No, they don't, he smiled. They're terrors, every one of them, but you love them anyway. I do. Clara crossed to him and took Rose, settling the baby against her shoulder. I love all of you. Even me. Especially you. He kissed her soft and slow until Samuel's voice interrupted. They're kissing again. Mind your business, Samuel. But Lily, they're always kissing. That's what people who love each other do. It's gross. Clara laughed against Nate's mouth. Your children have opinions. They get that from their mother. They get it from you too. Slander. Mrs. Dawson arrived the day before the wedding with a trunk full of surprises. I brought my wedding dress, she announced, settling into the best chair like a queen taking her throne. Well, not the original that fell apart decades ago, but I had a seamstress in Helena make a copy. Mrs. Dawson, I couldn't. You can and you will. The old woman fixed Clara with a steely gaze. I wore this dress when I married Robert. My daughter wore it when she married her husband. It's tradition. But I'm not family. You're marrying into this community. That makes you family enough. Mrs. Dawson's expression softened. Besides, you remind me of myself at your age, stubborn, strong, too proud to ask for help even when you need it. Clara's eyes burned. I don't know what to say. Say thank you and try on the dress. The dress fit perfectly. Clara stared at herself in the small mirror, hardly recognizing the woman looking back. The white fabric was simple but elegant, the lace at the collar delicate as frost. You look like an angel, Samuel breathed. Samuel, you're not supposed to be in here. Lily tried to shoo him out. But I wanted to see. It's bad luck for boys to see the dress. That's only the groom dummy. Don't call me dummy. Children. Mrs. Dawson's voice cut through the chaos. Give Clara a moment. They scattered reluctantly, still bickering. Mrs. Dawson rose and stood behind Clara, meeting her eyes in the mirror. You're scared, the old woman said. Terrified. Good. That means it matters. Mrs. Dawson placed a gnarled hand on Clara's shoulder. Marriage ain't easy. Loving someone is the hardest thing you'll ever do, but it's also the best thing, the only thing that really matters in the end. What if I fail? What if I'm not good enough for them? You already are good enough. You've proved that 100 times over. Mrs. Dawson's grip tightened. The question isn't whether you're good enough. The question is whether you're brave enough. Brave enough for what? To let yourself be happy. To accept love without waiting for it to be taken away. The old woman's voice softened. I know what it's like to expect disappointment. To brace yourself for the blow that's always coming. But sometimes, child, the blow doesn't come. Sometimes you just get to be happy. Clara's tears spilled over. I don't know how to do that. You learn. Day by day, moment by moment. You let people love you, and you love them back, and you stop waiting for the end. Mrs. Dawson handed her a handkerchief. Now dry your eyes. You're getting married tomorrow, and I won't have you showing up with a blotchy face. Clara laughed through her tears. Yes, ma'am. The night before the wedding, Clara couldn't sleep. She lay on her pallet by the fire, staring at the ceiling, listening to the wind howl outside. Tomorrow, everything would change. Tomorrow she would become Clara Callahan, wife, mother, part of a family. The thought terrified her. What if she wasn't good enough? What if she failed them the way everyone else in her life had failed her? What if Nate woke up one day and realized he'd made a mistake? Can't sleep. She turned. Lily stood in the doorway wrapped in a quilt. No, you... Rose is fussy. I was walking her, but she finally went down. Lily crossed to the fireplace and sat beside Clara. Nervous? Very. About marrying Papa. About everything. About being your mother. About whether I deserve any of this. Lily was quiet for a moment. Then, can I tell you something? Of course. When Mama died, I thought it was my fault. I was supposed to be watching the twins that night, but I fell asleep. I didn't hear Mama go to the barn. I didn't know anything was wrong until Papa came back carrying her. Lily's voice broke. I thought if I'd been awake, I could have helped. I could have saved her. Oh, sweetheart, that wasn't your fault. I know that now, mostly. Lily wiped her eyes. But for a long time I thought I was cursed. I thought everyone I loved would leave me. That's why I was so hard on you at first. I didn't want to love you. I didn't want to lose anyone else. Clara pulled the girl close. "You're not cursed, Lily, and I'm not going anywhere. Promise?" "I promise." Lily nestled against her shoulder. "I'm glad you fell into our barn." "Me too, sweetheart. Me too." They sat together in silence, watching the fire burn low. And when Lily finally drifted off to sleep, Clara carried her to her bed, tucking the quilts around her thin shoulders. "I'll take care of them," Clara whispered. "All of them. I swear it." She didn't sleep that night, but somehow she didn't mind. The wedding morning dawned cold and bright. Clara dressed in Mrs. Dawson's gown with shaking hands. Lily braided her hair weaving in dried flowers from the summer. The twins argued about who would carry the rings. Samuel insisted on wearing his Sunday best, which was 2 sizes too small and missing a button. "You look like a stuffed sausage," Ethan informed him. "You look like a stuffed sausage. Boys." Clara knelt between them, straightening their collars. "You both look very handsome. Now please, for the love of God, stop fighting for the next 3 hours. 3 hours. That's forever. It's one morning. You can do it." They exchanged doubtful looks, but fell silent. The ceremony was held at the small church in town. As Clara walked up the aisle, she saw faces she recognized: the blacksmith and his wife, the preacher's family, even Mrs. Patterson, who still couldn't quite meet her eyes. But there were also faces that smiled at her with genuine warmth. People who'd defended her. People who'd chosen her side. And at the end of the aisle, Nate waited. He wore his best suit, dark wool slightly worn at the elbows, but clean and pressed. His hair was combed back, his jaw freshly shaved. When he saw her, his eyes went bright. "You're beautiful," he breathed. "You're not so bad yourself." The preacher cleared his throat. "Shall we begin?" The vows were simple. Clara's voice shook, but Nate's was steady. "I take you as my wife, to love and protect, to honor and cherish, through hardship and joy, through winter and spring, until death do us part. I take you as my husband." Clara's eyes blurred with tears. "To love and support, to comfort and challenge, to stand beside you in all things, through all seasons, for all my days. Do you have the rings?" Samuel stepped forward proudly, producing 2 simple gold bands from his pocket. "I didn't lose them," he announced to the congregation. "That's very good, Samuel. Lily said I would, but I didn't." "Samuel." Nate's voice held a warning. "Sorry. Here." They exchanged rings. The metal was warm from Samuel's pocket, and Clara felt it settle onto her finger like a promise made tangible. "By the power vested in me, I now pronounce you husband and wife." The preacher smiled. "You may kiss your bride." Nate cupped her face in his hands and kissed her, soft at first, then deeper, like a man who'd been starving and finally found food. The congregation cheered. Samuel made gagging noises. The twins started arguing about who caught the bouquet, even though Clara hadn't thrown it yet. When they finally pulled apart, Nate rested his forehead against hers. "Hello, Mrs. Callahan." "Hello, Mr. Callahan. Ready to go home?" Clara looked around the church at the smiling faces, the crying children, the old woman in the front pew who'd made all this possible. "Yes," she said. "I'm ready." The celebration at the ranch lasted until nightfall. Neighbors brought food and music. Children ran wild through the yard, shrieking with laughter. Mrs. Dawson held court in the best chair, telling stories about the old days that made even the stodgiest townspeople laugh. Clara moved through it all in a daze, accepting congratulations, answering questions, trying to believe this was really her life now. "Dance with me." Nate appeared at her elbow, his hand extended. "I don't know how to dance." "Neither do I. We'll figure it out together." He led her to the center of the yard where someone had strung lanterns between the posts. The music was simple: a fiddle, a guitar, someone keeping time on a washboard. but it was enough. Nate pulled her close, and they swayed together, not quite in time with the music, but perfectly in time with each other. "I can't believe this is real," Clara whispered. "Believe it." "A month ago I was dying in a snowbank. Now I'm married with 5 children and people who actually like me." "They more than like you. They respect you." Nate's arms tightened around her. "You earned that." "I didn't do anything. You survived. You stood up. You refused to be broken." He pulled back to look at her. "That's everything, Clara. That's more than most people ever manage. I had help. We all need help. Taking it doesn't make you weak." The music swelled. Other couples joined them. The blacksmith and his wife, the preacher and his elderly mother, even Samuel and Emma, who were mostly just spinning in circles and giggling. "They're happy," Clara said, watching the children. "They haven't been happy in a long time. Not really." Nate's voice was thick. "You gave them that. We gave them that. Together." The song ended. Samuel collapsed dramatically onto the ground. "I'm dying," he announced. "Dancing killed me." "You're not dying," Lily said, stepping over him. "Get up before you ruin your clothes." "Already ruined. There's mud on everything." "That's your own fault." Clara laughed, and the sound surprised her, full and free and unrestrained. This was her family now. These children, this man, this life. All of it hers. As the evening wore on, the guests began to drift away. Mrs. Dawson was the last to leave, pressing a kiss to Clara's cheek. "You did well, child. Sarah would be proud." You knew her. Everyone knew Sarah. She was the heart of this community. Mrs. Dawson's eyes softened. She'd be glad her children have a mother again, and she'd be glad Nate found someone who matches his stubbornness. I'm not sure that's a compliment. It is. Trust me. The old woman patted her hand. Now, get some rest. Tomorrow the real work begins. She drove away into the darkness, leaving Clara and Nate alone on the porch. The children are asleep, Nate said quietly. All of them, even Lily. That's a miracle. It's exhaustion, but I'll take it. He slid an arm around her waist. Come to bed, wife. The word sent a shiver through her. Wife. That's going to take some getting used to. Take all the time you need. He led her inside through the quiet house to the bedroom they would now share. We've got the rest of our lives. Later, lying in the darkness with Nate's arm heavy across her waist, Clara finally let herself believe it. She was safe. She was loved. She was home. The door creaked open. A small figure appeared silhouetted against the hallway. I had a bad dream, Samuel whispered. Clara lifted the edge of the blanket. Come here. He scrambled up onto the bed, burrowing between them like a small determined mole. Better? She asked. Better? Nate's eyes met hers over Samuel's head. He smiled, tired content complete. This is our life now, he said quietly. I know. You okay with that? Clara looked at the little boy between them, already drifting back to sleep. At the man beside her, who'd pulled her from the snow and given her everything. More than okay, she said. I'm grateful. For what? For the barn door that blew open. For the children who found me. For you. She reached across Samuel to touch Nate's face. For all of it. Even the hard parts. Especially the hard parts. They led me here. Nate kissed her fingers. Get some sleep, Mrs. Callahan. Tomorrow's a new day. Every day's a new day now. That's the idea. She closed her eyes, listening to Samuel's soft breathing, feeling Nate's warmth beside her. Outside, the winter wind still howled, but inside, wrapped in love and family and belonging. Clara Callahan slept peacefully for the first time in years. She was exactly where she was meant to be. Spring came to Wyoming territory like a promise kept. Clara woke one morning to find the snow-melting streams of water running down from the hills. the first green shoots pushing through the frozen ground. She lay in bed, listening to the world come alive outside, and felt something shift in her chest. 3 months. 3 months since she'd collapsed in a barn in a ruined wedding dress. 3 months since a stranger had carried her to safety and 5 children had claimed her as their own. "You're thinking too loud." She turned. Nate lay beside her, eyes still closed, but his mouth curved in a smile. "How can you tell?" "I can hear it." He pulled her closer. "What's on your mind?" "Spring." "What about it?" "It's here." Clara pressed her face against his shoulder. "When I first came, you said I could stay until spring, until the thaw." "I remember." "It's thawing now." Nate's arms tightened around her. "You thinking about leaving?" "No. I'm thinking about how scared I was back then. How sure I was that you'd send me away once the snow melted." She looked up at him. "I couldn't imagine this. Any of this." "Neither could I." He kissed her forehead. "But here we are. Here we are." The bedroom door burst open. Samuel launched himself onto the bed, landing directly on Nate's stomach. "Oof, Samuel." "Papa, there's a letter. A man brought it from town." "A letter?" Clara sat up. "From who?" "I don't know. Lily's got it." They found Lily in the kitchen, the letter clutched in her hands, her face pale. "What is it?" Nate asked. "It's from Helena, from the courthouse." Lily's voice shook. "It's addressed to you and Clara both." Clara's blood went cold. "The judge. He's filed more charges." "Open it," Nate said. Lily handed over the letter. Nate broke the seal and read silently, his expression shifting from tension to confusion to something Clara couldn't identify. "What does it say?" she demanded. "It's from the territorial governor." Nate looked up, his eyes wide. "Judge Blackwood is dead." The words didn't make sense. Clara stared at him, waiting for the rest. "Dead? How?" "Heart attack, 3 weeks ago. They're just now notifying affected parties." Nate's voice was hollow. "All pending cases have been dismissed. All charges dropped." That's good, isn't it?" "There's more." He handed her the letter. Clara read it twice before the words sank in. The judge left a document with his lawyer, a confession. Confession to what? Everything. The false charges against me, the attempted fraud, the bribes he paid to get the deputies to cooperate. Her hands trembled. He wrote that he couldn't die with the weight of it on his conscience. He wanted it known that I was innocent. Silence fell over the kitchen. The children gathered around, sensing something important. "So it's really over?" Emma asked. "The bad man can't hurt us anymore." "He can't hurt anyone anymore," Nate said quietly. Ethan tugged Clara's sleeve. "Are you happy, Mama?" The word hit her like a physical blow. Mama. He'd called her Mama. Her voice broke. "Yes, sweetheart. I'm happy." "Then why are you crying?" "Because sometimes happy feels like crying." She gathered him close. "Because sometimes you get so full of feeling that it has to come out somewhere." Lily moved to her side. "He really confessed everything. Everything. Why would he do that?" Clara looked at the letter again, at the shaky handwriting of a dying man. "I don't know. Maybe he was scared of what came after. Maybe he wanted to be forgiven." "Do you forgive him?" The question hung in the air. Clara thought about the church steps, the snow, the hunger and fear and shame. She thought about the bruise on her face, the words he'd thrown at her like stones. "I don't know if I can forgive him," she said finally. "But I can let it go. I can stop carrying it." Nate's hand found hers. "That's enough." "Is it?" "It's more than enough." He squeezed her fingers. "It's everything." The news spread through Cedar Hollow like wildfire. By afternoon, visitors started arriving. Mrs. Patterson came first, her face stiff with embarrassment. I wanted to apologize, she said, not quite meeting Clara's eyes. For what I said at church. For how I treated you. You weren't the only one. No, but I was loud about it, and I was wrong. Mrs. Patterson twisted her hands together. I let Harrison Blackwood tell me what to think. I should have known better. Clara studied the woman, her lined face, her nervous fingers, the shame written in every line of her body. A month ago, this woman had called her a whore in front of the whole congregation. I forgive you, Clara said. Mrs. Patterson's head jerked up. Just like that. Just like that. Clara managed a small smile. Holding on to anger is exhausting. I'd rather spend my energy on better things. I don't deserve your forgiveness. Probably not, but I'm giving it anyway. Clara held out her hand. Start fresh. Mrs. Patterson took it, her grip tentative. Start fresh. More visitors came throughout the day. The blacksmith brought a set of horseshoes as a wedding gift, apologizing for not coming to the ceremony. The preacher's wife brought a pie and a prayer. Even the mercantile owner, who'd once refused to sell to Nate, appeared with a basket of goods and a stammered apology. They're all coming out of the woodwork, Lily observed dryly, watching another wagon approach. Funny how brave people get when the bully's dead. Lily. Clara's voice was gentle. They were scared. Same as us. That don't make it right. No, but understanding isn't the same as excusing. Clara put an arm around the girl's shoulders. People are complicated. They make mistakes. The question is whether they're willing to change. And if they're not, then we don't let them in. But we give them the chance first. Lily considered this, her young face troubled. Is that what Mama would have done? I don't know. I never knew your Mama. Clara pulled her closer. But I know your Papa, and I know you. And I think she'd be proud of both of you for surviving, for staying kind, despite everything. I ain't always kind. Neither am I. We try anyway. As the sun began to set, Clara found herself drawn to a place she'd never been, the hillside overlooking the ranch, where a simple wooden cross marked Sarah Callahan's grave. She walked up alone, her feet finding the path worn by 4 years of Nate's visits. The cross was weathered, but well-tended wildflowers already pushing through the soil around its base. Hello, Sarah. The words felt strange in her mouth. She was talking to a dead woman, a woman she'd never met, whose place she'd somehow taken. I know this is probably strange. Me being here, taking care of your children, sleeping in your bed, wearing your husband's ring. Clara knelt in the fresh mud. I want you to know I'm not trying to replace you. I couldn't if I tried. Those children love you. Nate loves you. That won't ever change. The wind picked up, stirring her hair. But I love them too, all of them. And I promise, I swear to you, I'll take care of them. I'll keep them safe. I'll raise them to be good and kind and strong the way you would have. Her voice cracked. I'll tell them about you. Every day if they want. I'll make sure they never forget. She knows. Clara turned. Nate stood behind her, his face wet with tears. I didn't hear you come up. I didn't want to interrupt. He knelt beside her, facing the cross. I come here to talk to her. Have since she died. Told her about you, actually, that first night. What did you say? That a woman fell into our barn, that she was broken and beautiful, and the children already loved her. Nate's voice was rough. That I was scared of feeling something again. And now I'm grateful. For all of it, the pain, the fear, the risk. He took Clara's hand. She sent you to us, Clara. I believe that. She knew we were drowning, and she sent someone to save us. I didn't save anyone. You saved me. Maybe we saved each other. He raised her hand to his lips. Maybe that's how it works. They sat together in the fading light, husband and wife, joined by the memory of a woman they'd both loved in different ways. I want to add something, Clara said suddenly. To the grave. Not to replace her cross, just something small. Something that shows we're all connected now. What kind of something? A stone, maybe, with all our names carved on it. Yours, mine, the children's. And hers. Clara met his eyes. A family marker. So she knows she's still part of us. Nate's face crumpled. For a long moment, he couldn't speak. She'd love that, he finally managed. She'd love you. You think so? I know so. They walked back to the house hand in hand, leaving Sarah to rest peacefully on the hill, where she'd always watched over them. 2 weeks later, Clara started getting sick. It was subtle at first, tiredness, a vague nausea in the mornings, a sensitivity to smells she'd never noticed before. She blamed it on the spring air, the extra work of planting season, the adjustment to her new life. But when she fainted in the kitchen while making breakfast, she couldn't ignore it anymore. "I'm fine," she protested as Nate carried her to the bedroom. "I just stood up too fast." "You've been tired for days. You barely ate dinner last night. And now you're fainting." He set her on the bed, his face drawn with worry. "I'm getting the doctor." "Nate, I'm getting the doctor." Dr. Whitfield arrived within the hour, a kindly man with white whiskers and a gentle manner. He examined Clara thoroughly while Nate paced the hallway and the children huddled on the stairs. "Well," the doctor said finally, putting away his stethoscope. "I think I know what's wrong with you, Mrs. Callahan." Clara's heart seized. "Is it serious?" "That depends on your perspective." Dr. Whitfield smiled. "You're pregnant." The word didn't compute. Clara stared at him, certain she'd misheard. "That's impossible." "I assure you it's quite possible." "No, you don't understand. I had a miscarriage 2 years ago. The doctor in Ohio said there was damage. He said I could never—" Her voice broke. "He said I was barren." Dr. Whitfield's expression softened. "Medicine is an imprecise science, Mrs. Callahan. Bodies heal in ways we don't always understand. Whatever damage existed before it seems to have resolved. But you're pregnant." The doctor patted her hand. "Approximately 2 months along by my estimate. You'll need to take it easy, eat well, and get plenty of rest. But there's no reason to think this won't be a healthy pregnancy." Clara couldn't breathe. Couldn't think. The room spun around her. "Does my husband know?" "Not yet. I thought you'd want to tell him yourself." She found Nate in the hallway wearing a groove in the floorboards. What did he say? "What's wrong? Is it serious?" Clara took his hands. Her own were shaking. "I'm pregnant." Nate's face went blank. "What?" "I'm pregnant. The doctor says 2 months. He says—" She laughed, half hysterical. "He says the damage healed. He says there's no reason I can't carry to term." "You're pregnant." "Yes." "We're having a baby." "Yes." Nate stared at her for one endless moment. Then he swept her into his arms and spun her around, laughing and crying at the same time. "A baby! Clara, we're having a baby. Put me down. The doctor said I need to rest." "You need to rest." "Yes, you need to." He set her down gently, his hands cupping her face. "Are you okay? Are you scared?" "Terrified." "Me too." He kissed her forehead. "We'll be terrified together." The children took the news with varying degrees of enthusiasm. "A baby!" Samuel's eyes went wide. "A real baby." "A real baby." "Can I hold it?" "When it's born, yes." "Can I name it?" "We'll discuss that." Lily's reaction was more subdued. She sat quietly while the others celebrated her face unreadable. "Lily!" Clara moved to her side. "Are you okay?" "I'm fine." "You don't seem fine." Lily was quiet for a long moment. Then, "Are you going to love it more than us?" Clara's heart broke. "What? The baby, your real baby." Lily's voice was small. "Are you going to love it more because it's actually yours?" Clara pulled the girl into her arms, holding her tight. Listen to me, Lillian Rose Callahan. You are my real children. All 5 of you. I chose you. I fought for you. I married your father because I couldn't imagine my life without any of you. But the baby will be my child too, just like you're my child. There isn't a limit on love, Lily. Having more doesn't mean loving less. Clara pulled back to look at her. You will always be my first daughter. Nothing changes that. Nothing ever will. Lily's composure finally cracked. She buried her face in Clara's shoulder and sobbed deep, wrenching cries that had been building for years. I miss Mama, she gasped. I miss her so much. I know, sweetheart, I know. I thought I wasn't allowed to miss her anymore, because you're here now. You can miss her forever. You should miss her forever. She was your mother. Clara stroked her hair. Loving me doesn't mean forgetting her. There's room in your heart for both of us. You promise. I promise. That night, after the children were asleep, Clara and Nate sat on the porch watching the stars emerge. I still can't believe it, Clara said softly. After everything the doctor said. After all those years of thinking I was broken. You were never broken. I felt broken. Feeling something don't make it true. Nate pulled her closer. You're the strongest person I've ever met, Clara. You survived things that would have destroyed most people. You came out the other side still capable of love, of hope, of joy. That ain't broken. That's miraculous. Clara leaned into him. I'm scared, Nate. Of what? Of losing it, like before. She pressed a hand to her still flat stomach. I don't think I could survive that again. Whatever happens, you won't face it alone. Not this time. He covered her hand with his. We're in this together, all of it. The fear and the hope and whatever comes after. What if something goes wrong? Then we'll deal with it, together. What if the baby isn't healthy? Then we'll love it anyway, together. What if... Clara. Nate turned her face toward his. I spent 4 years asking, what if? What if I'd ridden faster? What if I'd never left? What if I'd done something different? It nearly destroyed me. The only thing that saved me was learning to let go of questions I couldn't answer. How do I do that? 1 day at a time, 1 hour at a time, 1 breath at a time. He kissed her softly. And when you can't do it alone, you let me help. The months passed slowly the way they do when you're waiting for something precious. Clara's body changed gradually, her belly rounding, her energy fluctuating. The children treated her like glass, constantly fetching things, insisting she rest, fighting over who got to feel the baby kick. It moved, Ethan shouted one evening. I felt it move. That's its elbow, Clara explained. It's got elbows. It's got everything. Elbows, knees, fingers, toes. Does it have a name? Not yet. Can we name it Hector? We are not naming the baby after your frog. Summer turned to fall. Fall turned to early winter. And on a cold December night, exactly 1 year after Clara had stumbled into the Callahan barn, she went into labor. It was long and hard and terrifying. Nate never left her side, his hand gripping hers through every contraction. Mrs. Dawson arrived at midnight, taking charge of the household with her usual efficiency. Dr. Whitfield came at dawn, his face calm and reassuring. You're doing wonderfully, he told Clara. Just a little longer. That's what you said 3 hours ago. Medicine is an imprecise science. I'm going to kill you. That's the pain talking. When the baby finally came crying and red-faced and perfect, Clara collapsed against the pillows, too exhausted to feel anything but relief. A girl, Dr. Whitfield announced. A healthy baby girl. Nate took the infant in his arms, his weathered face transformed by wonder. She's beautiful. She looks like a potato, Clara mumbled. A beautiful potato. Let me see her. He laid the baby in Clara's arms. She looked down at the tiny face, the rosebud mouth, the dark wisps of hair, the eyes that would someday be brown or gray or some color all her own. "Hello, little one," Clara whispered. "Welcome to the family." The door cracked open. 5 small faces peered through. "Can we see?" Samuel demanded. "Can we see the baby?" "Come in," Nate said, quietly. They crept in one by one, gathering around the bed. Rose, now nearly 3, climbed up to sit beside Clara, staring at the infant with fascination. "Baby," she said solemnly. "My baby." "Our baby," Lily corrected. "She belongs to all of us." "What's her name?" Emma asked. Clara looked at Nate. They'd discussed it for months, arguing over family names and new names and combinations of both. "Sarah," Clara said finally. "Sarah Grace Callahan." Silence fell over the room. Lily's eyes filled with tears. "You named her after Mama." "She's part of this family, part of your mother's legacy." Clara touched the baby's cheek. "And Grace. Because that's what brought us all together. Grace we didn't deserve but received anyway." Nate bent to kiss her forehead. "It's perfect. She's perfect. So are you." Later, when the children had been sent to bed and the house was quiet, Clara lay in the darkness with Sarah Grace asleep on her chest and Nate beside her. "1 year," she said softly. "What?" "1 year since I fell into your barn. 1 year since everything changed. Best year of my life. Better than the ones with your first, Sarah." Nate was quiet for a moment. Different. Both good but different. He reached over to touch the baby's head. "She gave me a family. You gave me a second chance. I don't think one is better than the other. Just different gifts from different people I loved. Loved, love, present tense, for both of you." He met her eyes in the darkness. "You can love someone who's gone, and someone who's here at the same time. It's not a betrayal. It's just expansion." Clara thought about that, about her parents gone so long now, about the life she'd imagined and the life she'd received. "I'm happy," she said. "Yeah, more than I ever thought I could be, more than I ever dreamed." She pressed her lips to Sarah Grace's downy head. "Thank you." "For what?" "For finding me, for keeping me, for giving me this life." "You earned this life, Clara, every piece of it." Nate's voice was fierce with love. "Don't thank me. Thank yourself." "I thank both of us." "Fair enough." Somewhere in the house, a child stirred. Footsteps creaked on the floorboards. Samuel's voice drifted through the darkness. "Is the baby still okay?" "She's fine," Clara called back. "Go back to bed." "I just wanted to check." "You can check in the morning." "Promise she'll still be here." "I promise." Footsteps retreated. The house settled back into silence. Clara closed her eyes, feeling the weight of her daughter on her chest, the warmth of her husband beside her, the presence of 5 children sleeping in rooms down the hall. A year ago, she'd been dying in a snowbank, abandoned, alone, certain that her life was over. Now she had everything she'd ever wanted and more than she'd ever dared to hope for. The barn door that blew open in that December storm hadn't just saved her life. It had given her a family, a home, a future worth living. She'd walked through that door broken and desperate, with nothing left to offer but her willingness to work. She'd found love anyway. Sarah Grace stirred in her sleep, making soft sounds. Clara pulled her closer, breathing in the sweet smell of new life. Outside, the winter wind howled. But inside, wrapped in warmth and love and belonging, Clara Callahan had finally found what she'd been searching for all along. Home wasn't a place. It wasn't 4 walls or a piece of land or even a territory on a map. Home was the people who waited for you, the people who chose you, the people who loved you, not because they had to, but because they wanted to. Home was a widower with tired eyes and steady hands. Home was 5 children who refused to let her leave. Home was a baby sleeping on her chest, and a future stretching out before her like an endless road. She'd been left at an altar, abandoned on church steps, thrown away like something worthless. And she'd ended up here, in this bed with this family in this life she never could have imagined. That was grace. That was redemption. That was the miracle she'd stopped believing in. Clara Callahan had finally found her way home, and she was never leaving again.